Now let's consider the sun for a Cancer ascendant. The sun rules the second house for a Cancer ascendant, and the sun is exalted in the 10th house for a Cancer ascendant, and the sun is debilitated in the 4th house for a Cancer ascendant. This all gives us important information. But before we get into the exaltation, debilitation, let's consider the role of the sun as the second house lord. Now, often, if you've ever known a Cancerian, or if you're a Cancerian, and you've been in a relationship with someone with a Cancer ascendant, you will find that there's often a real emphasis on stability in their finances, and even making sacrifices for stability in finances. And that has to do with the sun's rulership of the second house for a Cancer ascendant. The sun is about doing what one needs to support the greater good. That is what a noble king does. And so often Cancerians do that, they play that role, and they almost always expect their partners to play that role as well. And why is that? Because the sun rules the 8th house from the indicator of partnership for a Cancer ascendant, which shows that the Cancerian, in a way, demands or expects that their partner be psychologically stable enough to provide for their family and their loved ones, in the same way that the Cancerian expects that of themselves too. The sun is a planet of steadfastness. We know through our studies of the sun that it rises every morning. That's why we have that saying or that cliche. We can count on the sun. So for a Cancerian to have a happy life and a consistent life and a fulfilled life, they have to manifest this quality of the sun as second house lord, which is what? Stability in finances, stability in their responsibilities. If a Cancerian is having trouble with that, they have to do whatever it takes, either seeing a counselor, talking with a coach, to find some way to get stability in their finances and their ability to procure resources for them. That's one of the things that will allow a Cancerian to express its higher principles, its higher qualities, the blueprint of what it means to be a Cancer. The second house often relates to our immediate family, that family which has raised us. And this is one of the reasons why Cancer ascendants often are very family-oriented. Often we think about it being because the moon rules over the ascendant for a Cancer. And that plays a role in it, of course. And it's also because Cancer is the natural 4th sign of the zodiac, which is about our sense of home and our emotional stability. But when we have the sun ruling over the second of early childhood, immediate family, we can see that having a very well organized, a very dependable family life helps them to thrive. So anything that a Cancerian can do to stabilize, organize their family life, their immediate family, the better off they will be. Sometimes Cancers have trouble with that because of their emotional attachments, that they maybe keep relationships with close people, because that's part of your immediate tribe, your immediate family, that are not necessarily good for them because they want to take care of them and transform them. And if they have the strength and the capacity to do that, that is fine. However, what often happens is they end up wasting and exhausting their own emotional reserves for someone else. And so a Cancerian does very well if they are able to have very clear boundaries with the people that they are in immediate intimate relationships with. And these aren't sexual relationships. These are the people that you spend a lot of time with, that you consider to be your immediate family. And they do very well with organized rules of engagement in that regard. And they do very well if they can make sure that their boundaries that they stress for the people around them indicate that they expect them to be dependable, to pull their own weight, to contribute to the finances and the resources of the little group of this immediate family. So this has to do with the fact that the sun rules the second house. And remember, the sun deals with things like consistency, steadfastness, leadership, responsibility, self-sacrifice. And all of that is going to or needs to manifest in that area of resources, finances, as well as the immediate family. That has to express in its healthiest fashion. And often a Cancerian has to work at that. They have to work at that with the people around them. Or if they're too emotional, or if they're if they're not able to tap into the steadfastness of Saturn as well, they're not disciplined enough to realize how much happier they would be if they did whatever it took to have consistent, stable resources, even if it's not the job of their dreams, or even if it's not doing something glorious. They will be much happier if they do anything that it takes for that steadfastness, that consistency in finances and resources, because of the sun's rulership of the second house. Now, for a Cancer ascendant, the sun doesn't rule. It is exalted in the 10th house of the 10th house from Cancer. And we've already discussed how the moon is exalted in the 11th house for a Cancer ascendant. And so what we see is the two luminaries are both exalted in the top part of the chart. And again, this is one of the reasons why Cancerians can be extremely popular, well-known individuals if they're activating their sun and their moon well. Because if they're activating it well, that is, it is acting in a way as though that sun is in its highest point, exalted point in the 10th, where it is for a Cancer ascendant, where the moon is acting in its highest, healthiest nature in the 11th house, very visible houses. This is why Cancerians have to be very aware of the role models that they provide to their children, to their employees, to the people that are around them, to their friends, to the people that look up to them, because they will naturally, due to the fact that the sun is exalted and the moon is exalted, and the upper portions of the chart, the more visible portions of the chart, they have a capacity to impress those around them, like as though one is impressionable, not impress as in, wow, look how awesome you are, but to impress upon them, to be a good role model. So Cancerians have to take their role and their leadership and how they inspire others very seriously. If they do that, it is as though they're acting like their sun is exalted in the 10th, their moon is exalted in the 11th. But what does it mean to have the second lord exalted in the 10th house? Well, again, the second house deals with speech, so it can show an individual having very charismatic speech, very inspirational speech. That's why Cancer ascendants can often be very good speakers. Or if they're not, working on that helps to develop that sun in a healthy capacity. The second house, again, deals with things like resources, finances, managing things. They're wonderful at making Excel spreadsheets for people's tax expenses and these sorts of things. Why? Because we have the sun exalted, the second lord, which is the second house, is a house of responsibility, exalted in the 10th house, which is a house of activity and often related to career and how a person karmically impacts the world. Cancer ascendants also do very well due to that second lord being exalted in the 10th if they are able to find a career or a path that they can stick to, so not jumping around, and they usually don't, but if they do, they have to work on that, and a life path that they can grow in responsibility with. So oftentimes Cancerians, as they mature, as they get older, their responsibilities, they get more promotions. If they act in a very responsible way, if they take care of those people around them that they're meant to, if they guide an organization, if they're part of a government, again, sun exalted in the 10th, or part of a corporation, they will often rise to high levels of management or high positions of leadership as well. But it requires of them to manifest those healthy qualities of the sun, which is what? Consistency. Be consistent, get on a routine, be dependable, don't let people down, stay true to your word. The sun is a planet of truth in that regard. If they have integrity, if they're able to make sacrifices and other people see them making those sacrifices, where they have a project that they need to do and they decide they have a ski trip, but they have to, the project's running late and they end up canceling the ski trip to focus on that project. They're making a sacrifice in that regard. Or if it comes to health, rather than saying, I just want to do everything I've always been doing, they look at their diet, they look at their exercise or lack of exercise, and they say, I'm going to create a routine where I will exercise every day on a disciplined schedule, and I will change my diet, and I will have good integrity with it. I will not cheat. I will make sure that I am consistent with my diet. Then they're able to excel in improving their health. They make sacrifices. The sun is all about sacrifices. So the more steadfast, consistent, routine, ability to sacrifice and lead and inspire others, the more that plays out, and the more integrity there is in all areas of their life, the more effective they will be in their life, the more impact they will have karmically on the world. Because the 10th house, where the sun is exalted, is about how one karmically impacts the world. Now, if they act like their sun is debilitated, which would be in the 4th house, what happens there? It's the complete opposite. So it's the thing that you want to avoid. And if you are a Cancer and you have your sun debilitate in the 4th house, don't fret about it. That just shows that in the past, and using the theory of past lifetimes, you have not attended to the strengths of the sun. You might have been lazy in those areas of life. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, I haven't been lazy. I've been trying all my life to be consistent, but things get in my way and I just can't help it and it just doesn't work out. That is not how a person with a strong sun thinks. They do not fall into that state of kind of pity or victimization. They say, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. Even if I fail 1,000 times, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep trying. So when you think of the sun, that second lord being debilitated in the 4th house, what we have is a solar energy which is not shining brightly. We have a solar energy which doesn't understand that you can only have a healthy heart, a healthy home life, a healthy, remember the 4th is your sensitive underbelly, where you should be able to go to rejuvenate, to rest. If you don't have all the things in order on the externals, such as enough heat in your home, enough food in your cabinet, a steady income, you're not going to be able to feel safe when you are alone and when you should be resting and rejuvenating. So when people have the sun in the 4th house, they don't understand that. What they try to do is they hyperfixate on controlling their emotions, their internal states. And by doing that, they miss the point that this whole life is a coin with two sides, the external and the internal. And for example, if we were talking about a Capricorn ascendant, which is opposite Cancer, the roles would be reversed. The Capricorn ascendant has already worked really hard in theoretical past lifetimes. And so now their sun is going to be debilitated in the 10th house. So the pushing, the striving, the inspiration, the drive is not appropriate for a Capricorn ascendant like it is for a Cancer ascendant. So that's why people are different in this regard. That's why debilitated suns and exalted suns are different for each ascendant. How they function, how they express, they're different for each ascendant. But for the Cancer ascendant, the main thing that they need to do is focus on those positive qualities of the sun, how it would function as the second lord, thinking about what the second house represents, and then think about what the qualities of the sun represent. And if that sun was positively shining on all those qualities, if that person was positively engaging those solar qualities related to the second house, what would that look like? That's how the sun's going to function well for a Cancer ascendant. When we think about an exalted, healthy, not overpowering, not overburdened sun, but a healthy sun in the 10th house of career, of activity, of status, of how one impacts the world, what would that look like? That's what the Cancer ascendant needs to focus on. And then when we think about what we need to avoid, it's that sun in the 4th house, where it would be debilitated, where there'd be too much of a focus on trying to organize and micromanage and almost, in a sense, maybe be a bit of a tyrant with one's emotional nature, which is why oftentimes people have low self-esteem, because they're too hard on themselves. They're too hard on themselves, deep down inside emotionally. So when you think about a Cancer ascendant in the sun, it's very important to keep these ideas in mind.